Well, I'll tell you, that was just developing, I think, at the time that I was recruited back to Telluride. And I thank my lucky stars that I wasn't there to have to deal with
Honest
that.
to God.
Tom Bennett came back, and
That's
he
right.
worked that 7 days a week for 3 months. And God bless him, I guess you could say. He's a sturdy workhorse, but it burned him out. And I don't.
You know,
when they arrested Carr,
Jim,
I sent him an email. I said, "Well, congratulations. You know, you finally got the guy." And he rewrote me back.
They
and said,
laughed.
"I don't think so."
The guy's getting boobs put in Bangkok, Thailand. The Thais are calling him Lady Man. And they buy him champagne and caviar on the airplane at the Boulder taxpayers' expense. That's the work of Mary Keenan Lacey. That's the work of Michael Tracy. Hang on, I'll come right back with you guys. Not angry about that, are you, Peter? It's 22 after the hour of 8, 822, 630 KHOW, Denver's talk station. When all of the story starts to come down in 96, I was called a media whore. And that was the people who were the pro-Ramseys who couldn't imagine this wonderful woman and this fabulous man doing anything like they did. So they dubbed me the media whore. So I formed Media Whore Productions. And we would come up with songs. There was a very gifted guy in Boulder by the name of Don Reggae. And we did 17, 18 tunes through this. And this was one of them, if you would, Sheik.
Big John.
It's about John Ramsey.
Big John.
Every morning on the mall, you could see him arrive at Access Graphics around 8:35. His business put his game all over the map, and everybody knew you didn't give no crap to Big John.
Big John.
Brilliant work.
Big John.
Carol McKinley, my colleague, is with us, and Jim Kohler, and the new book on the Ramsey case is out. And Kohler was hired, of course, by Boulder District Attorney Mary Keenan Lacey in spring of 2004. So jump to the conclusion, and then we'll continue up the other side of the wall. Who do you think,
I'll
sir?
tell you, I leave it to people to draw their own conclusions. I lay out the history of the case with the evidence. I discount a number of things that intruder theorists pointed to, including the stun gun, comprehensive analysis of the samples of DNA, and then people are allowed to make their own opinion. And I think they get to be the investigator and help decide what they think happened.
Carol, you read the book. What's your opinion?
Oh, you know me. I'm not going to give my opinion. You know, I'm with Jim. Whatever Jim throws out there, you know, is up to people to come up with their own opinions on the thing.
You call the book "Who Really Kidnapped?" Was there a kidnapping at all, Jim?
Well, I think if you look at what I interpret as the evidence, I think she was struck in the kitchen or the dining room where the pineapple was being consumed, and then moved downstairs afterwards. When you move one person from one room to another, even in the same home or apartment, that's considered a kidnapping if it's against their will.
Remember, the Ramsey's official story was that she fell asleep in the car coming home from the Whites, and Patsy carried her upstairs and put her in bed. However, the autopsy had pineapple in her stomach. Pineapple was found in the refrigerator, and of course, that was her favorite snack, was pineapple. Does it add up if they found undigested pineapple in this little girl's stomach, that she had fallen asleep in the car and didn't eat when she came home and wasn't awake?
Can I correct that, Peter?
Absolutely.
The Whites did not serve pineapple at the dinner party that the family had attended that evening. John carried John Benet up to her bedroom after they got home. She was asleep in the car, as reported by the family. And I think he left her there for Patsy to come up and get her settled for bed before they turned in. You know, brush her teeth, use the toilet. And my thought was, well, she may have been asleep when they got home, but was it possible for her to have awakened when Patsy got her up?
But what was their official story was that she never woke up.
That's correct.
That's what I'm saying.
And Patsy denied serving pineapple.
Well, how could she have
John
it in her stomach?
Benet.
The Whites never served pineapple at their house on Christmas.
Well, she was never asked, if I recall, whether or not she served. Well, maybe she was.
No,
she served pineapple to Burke. Burke's fingerprints and Patsy's fingerprints were found on a bowl and glass in the dining room that contained raw pineapple.
That was John Benet's favorite snack.
Right. So did John Benet wake up after being aroused to go to the bathroom and brush her teeth and go downstairs and eat pineapple at that juncture?
I agree.
I think that's very possible.
But it wasn't the official story.
Correct.
We never saw her alive again, Patsy Ramsey.
Right.
So who really killed her?
You have to draw your own conclusions based on the way I lay it out with the evidence.
I've had a conclusion for a long time. It ain't no whodunit.
I lay it out for you. I have a pretty good idea, I think, what happened, but you get to draw your own conclusions. And there's new evidence there that has never been seen before.
Hey, Peter, if
Yeah.
you look at, I wrote a story about this for the Daily Beast website.
I read it, yeah.
Did you see that video of the cobweb in the corner of the window?
Yeah, tell that story. That's a
Well,
great...
I mean, these are some of the things that Jim developed. And, you know, when I wrote that story, I did call Mark Beckner, and I called Stan Garnett, and I did call Mary Lacey and a bunch of the people involved to get their comments on it. But Mark Beckner, 3.5 years ago, you know, they had that task force,
Right.
and Jim was one of the presenters of the task force. And he presented this toy that was found all around the house, which he thinks made those marks on her back. And he also presented some extra DNA that was found in the basement. You know, we always hear about the DNA in the underwear, in the crotch of her panties, and on the waistband of the leggings and the panties. But there was also DNA unexplained, and a different person found on the garrote and on the cord that was wrapped around her wrist. Not to mention the DNA that was found under her fingernails. And maybe Jim can talk about that. It's 6 different people, right, Jim?
Right. And I didn't present that DNA. That's what was...
But that was presented by Andy Jarrito, right,
Mm-hmm.
out of the DA's office.
Right.
But that was something that's never been out, and there is, you know, the DNA in this case is every prosecutor and every cop knows that DNA can make or break a case, but it's never been known that there were actually 6 pieces of unidentified DNA in critical places, 5 men and 1 woman.
But here's the problem. I mean, I think the case was lost in the first 24 hours.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well,
I mean,
hang on.
the Boulder police had so many experts to try to explain
Carol,
this case.
Look, I say this. If we took Lady Justice, who wears a blindfold and she holds scales, if we put everything in one scale, all the evidence that points to the Ramseys and their family, and we put everything in the other scale, that the 10th marker from a DNA sample from John Bonet's underwear in the other one, the scale that says the Ramseys did it's going to drop like a rock. And
You know, the cops do say they like to look at the totality of a case,
I understand
not just
that.
one piece of evidence.
And if the Ramseys had a bunch of hot dog lawyers, which they could have afforded, who knows? Let me ask you a question. Do you think Alex Hunter ever even allowed that grand jury to vote?
I don't.
I don't either.
I don't think he ever did. And I think Mike Kane, who was the lead grand jury prosecutor, wanted an indictment. I think he was very eaten up about the fact that there never was an indictment because he believed there was enough evidence.
Absolutely. Jim, do you think the grand jury ever voted?
You know, I had access to grand jury materials, and I'm just not able to comment one way or the other.
All right. I don't think Alex Hunter let them vote.
Well, I think it's time to talk about this. I mean, I think it's time for some of those people who were on the grand jury to come forward.
I do
it's
too.
not going to hurt anything. When I talked to Mark Beckner, the police chief in Boulder now, about the book and whether it bothered him.
And he's and Beckner's a good man.
Yeah, he is.
I think he's a good man.
He is, and he's had to straddle a lot with this case, and he's done a very good job with it. But he said, we now have a crime scene video that no one's ever seen before of this cobweb in the corner of the window.
We're going to put it. Here's what I do. I'm right at my break.
Yeah, go ahead and put it on your website.
It's up right now.
But you know what?
And your
You know
article,
what he
by the Skins,
said?
I put your article up too. I put your.
Okay.
Go ahead, say it, and then we'll break.
He said, look, I mean, this is a cold case. He said, I'm not mad about it. He said, there's not much more we can do at this point. He wasn't mad about the book. Jim didn't know if he would be. So at this point, I mean, this case, even after that task force, the Boulder police looked at every lead they could that was introduced at that task force and did everything they could do. And Jim talks about this toy that was in the basement. Well, they don't have the toy. They only have pictures of the toy.
We'll talk about the train.
They ran down every lead they could.
Yeah, he's on the money. Everybody hang on. That video is now up, KHOW.com. 8:38, 22 minutes before the hour, 6:30 KHOW. Tom Martino coming up. And, well, I'll tell you what, when I listen to people like Carol and Jim speak, it just brings up all my old anger about how these bastards got away with a murder and how bad the district attorney's office was, and frankly, at the time, how bad the Boulder chief of police was, how horrible we watched this come together, and how they really danced away from what they did. And I just really like Jim Kohler's book. And the book is entitled Foreign Faction, Who Really Kidnapped JonBenet Ramsey? Again, Jim, by the way, Carol, your video is up, and that really is this mysterious cobweb. You guys, if you're Ramsey murder, geeks, I guess, drawn to this case, that cobweb story, talk about why that's a bizarre video.